Hi, Year Sevens. Today we're going to be looking at how water is used by people, specifically people in Australia, but also in other parts of the world as well. Later, after you've watched this video, you'll be given the opportunity to answer some questions on water use. You'll also be given the opportunity to learn how to construct a pie graph online rather than on paper. So it'll be a good lesson. You'll learn a very good geography skill in how to construct a pie graph and also some interesting content that we're going to go through today. So there are three main uses of water by all people across the world. The first one is growing food. The second is producing goods and electricity. And the third is using water in the home. The amount of water consumed for each of these uses differs from one place to another. The problem remains that while the total amount of fresh water is fixed, the amounts used per person is always increasing. It's interesting to look at water consumption on a global scale. With a global average at 1,240 cubic metres per person per year, some countries consume more water than others. Examples of countries that consume nearly twice as much as the global average are people in the United States and people in Thailand. Some countries that consume the least amount of water per person are places like Peru, Somalia, and China. So this pie graph here represents what each of the three main uses of water, how much of the percentage of fresh water use do they take up. So agriculture, you can see, takes up a huge amount of our freshwater use. 70% of our freshwater is used in agriculture. Now, this is in Australia specifically. 20% of our agriculture use is in industry, and 10% is our domestic use. So domestic just refers to household use of water. Keeping in mind, agriculture is farming, so agriculture is the production of food, and industry is the production of goods. So this picture here shows that most of the world's water is used in agriculture to grow food for the world's increasing population. Now, this is especially the case in the drier parts of the world where there is not enough rainfall to grow crops or grass for animals. There is a very strong interconnection between the amount of rainfall in a region and the amount of water used in agriculture. It's very interesting to see how these patterns vary in different countries. In some countries, the water that's used in agriculture and industry is greater than the amount of water used in homes for domestic use. In other places, people consume more water for domestic use than for either agriculture or industry. So if we have a little look at this map here, it shows the main uses of water in order of use, and that's what the colours represent. Now, I know that you guys know how to use a map, so if you have a little look at the key that we have down the bottom, or the legend, you can see the different colours illustrating different things. So the light green indicates that that country uses the most water for agriculture, the second most for industry, and the third most for domestic use, domestic or municipal. If we're looking at the light blue colours, the light blue coloured countries use the most water for domestic use, and then the next amount for agriculture and the least amount for industry. There are some countries where there is no data, but for most of the countries, we have enough data to be able to see how many people use water for particular reasons. So I find this map really interesting, and I'll have a picture of this map in your Schoology page so you can refer back to it as you answer your questions. Now, agriculture is an important industry in Australia. It's our thirstiest industry. It produces most of our food requirements, and it contributes enormously to Australia's export earnings, so the amount of money that Australia makes from sending things overseas. Around 70% of Australia's freshwater is used as irrigation for farming. Many crops are grown in dry areas where up to half the available water evaporates from the soil surface or seeps down too low into the ground for plant roots to reach it. Therefore, more water is applied than is actually needed by plants. In manufacturing industries, most water is used to produce food, beverages, and paper. In many areas in Australia where rainfall is limited or highly seasonal, meaning that it only comes in particular seasons, farmers irrigate their crops with water stored in dams, with groundwater, or with water from major rivers. Irrigation is a very important use of water in Australia. Most large-scale farming could not provide food for Australia's population without using water from rivers, lakes, reservoirs, and wells. Now, there is high demand for irrigation water during summer when river flows are very low, and there is low demand for irrigation water during winter when river flows are high. So it's really important to remember that climate and weather have a huge effect on how water is used within a country. So guys, I've got some questions for you on Schoology. They're just below this video here. Just remember that if you do have any questions, you must ask for help. Even if you are working from home or if you're working away from a teacher or away from a classmate that could help you, make sure that you're using the resources available to you. So you're using your email, you're using Schoology to communicate. This is going to help you out a huge amount. So your tasks are divided into access, level, and challenge. I expect every single student to complete the access task. I expect most students to either attempt or finish the level tasks. And I expect only some students to be able to complete the challenge task by the end of the lesson. Remember to check how much time is allocated to this task. Don't spend 2 hours doing something that only has half an hour allocated to it. Good luck, and make sure you communicate if you need any help.